Okay, so I guess we'll just start with looking ahead. It's bound to get cold very soon. How do you feel? Do you feel prepared for going into a winter weather season?
Yes, we do. We feel prepared. We've already had a few de-icing events. Small scale helps us get people trained, but some of the things we put in place to help us get through winter weather well helped us this summer. Lots of disruptions this summer, lots of unusual hurricanes. We managed through those very well, implementing some of the stuff we've from lessons learned last year, so very confident.
You mentioned last year. No jitters, no heartburn going into this season based on what happened before?
Oh, you certainly must take it seriously. So I think the best way you can address any nervousness is preparation, and we've been preparing every day since last year, whether it's planning at headquarters or doing summer school icing during the winter. I think we've taken an over-preparation approach.
I know that much of the narrative last year was a technology meltdown. I feel like that's probably what we reported many times on air. But I think now that we understand it better, this wasn't a technology problem, right?
That's correct. It wasn't the case that technology caused an operational problem. It was an operational problem caused technology issues. And so yes, our operation really getting bogged down and not being able to operate through the winter weather last year put our crew network under severe stress and got our crews all out of place. And as a result, our technology could not help us recover. So yes, the technology could have been better in that situation, but we put it in a bad spot through our operational problems.
Tell me about what you discovered. Winter storms happen. So what was different about this one that caused such a problem?
We took an approach of some introspection. We looked at what we did individually and collectively, and then had a third party help us as well. And what it really showed is that this broke down to 3 phases. The first 3 days, the 21st, 22nd, and 23rd, was winter weather operations, just like every other airline experienced. However, we were not able to operate up to a sufficient tempo, and so we had lots of cancellations, more than other airlines. And that led to the next phase, 24th, 25th, 26th, where we were trying to repair our crew network. Our crew were out of place, and we could not get them back into place. We tried every night through that period of time unsuccessfully. And then finally, on the 26th in the evening, we reduced our operations for the next 3 days, the 27th, 28th, and 29th, to a very low level, and operated those very smoothly, but at that low level of operations. And then finally on the 10th day, went back to normal operations successfully.
So when you look back on it, was there one spot, was it Denver, that really was the place where everything cascaded and created the effect all over the country?
If you look at airlines who have disruptions, a common theme is a crew network gets out of sorts, and that leads to a multi-day event almost guaranteed. And so for us then, our big crew bases in Denver and Chicago were the epicenter of Winter Storm Elliott. And so not being able to operate through the winter weather to sufficient tempo made our crew members not be able to get out of their base. And so we have 12 bases around the country, and with them not being able to get out of those 2 bases, that's 25% of our flight crews. And so if you don't leave on day 1, guess what? Day 2 and day 3 of your trip, you're not there. And so really not being able to operate in Denver and Chicago in particular really put us behind the 8 ball.
Let's talk about changes then. So I feel like when we were here and we had a brief conversation about this a few months ago, you talked a little bit about not being able to withstand the temperatures. It feels like it gets cold every winter in Denver and Chicago. What was different about this particular event that prevented Southwest from operating the way that maybe United or American was able to operate?
Well, there was a combination of the amount of snow, the wind, and the temperature. And so we were not able to effectively de-ice aircraft in particular, and we also had trouble with our ground support equipment. And so when you de-ice an aircraft, you need a place to do it, which we call a de-ice pad. You need de-ice trucks then to de-ice and anti-ice the aircraft on the pad. And then, of course, the pilots needed to be able to calculate, is it safe to take off? And so those kinds of things, you have to have specialized equipment for that. Our judgment was we didn't have enough last winter.
So what have you done about that?
Well, certainly we've asked for extra infrastructure from the airports. So in Denver in particular, we had 6 de-ice pads. Now we have 10 with access to an 11th. We had 25 de-ice trucks. Now we have 40. The de-ice trucks themselves, we've re-engineered the process by which we use them. They used to have to drive about an hour and 20 minutes round trip between de-icings when they had to refill their glycol and go get diesel. And so now we've changed the process to bring that to the de-ice trucks. So there's a fuel truck on the pad to be able to refuel the de-ice trucks. We have new blending stations with getting glycol refilled is much quicker. So it took about an hour or 50 minutes to an hour out of that process. So those de-ice trucks are more effective than they were before. And then we also have a new technology for our pilots to use to calculate the holdover time between the finish of de-icing and how much time they have to take off, so they have more accurate dynamic information.
Let's talk about that, because I feel like that was a key point in that conversation I referenced earlier this spring, where you mentioned that like you would de-ice and then you would get ready to take off, and your equipment was telling you, no, we can't take off, whereas other airlines were still able to take off. Can you explain that process?
Well, it really is the whole process that, the holdover time is something the pilots reference through using FAA material to understand, given the temperature and the liquid water equivalent of the snow, how much time they have to take off from the beginning of applying anti-ice fluid. And so we were not set up to have that be as quick as possible. So when the pilots were then referencing their countdown clocks, we didn't have enough time. And as a result, we had to return to the terminal where there was no space, and that led to somewhat of a gridlock on an iced up terminal.
Talk also, I understand you have really invested also in staff in some of these places as well. Denver, trying to have more staff that's ready to go when it comes to winter weather. Can you talk about that?
Yes, we did a lessons learned afterwards. We talked to many stakeholders, including our unions, and the union representing our ramp workers. We talked to them about both the de-ice trucks we have and the amount of staffing, and there was some suggestions they had, and that was some more staffing at the end of the night. So we don't operate around the clock, but essentially we needed more staff after hours for when flights do run late. So we didn't have to push people in overtime all the time. So that additional staffing late night, as a matter of course, has paid dividends even this summer. So we think it'll be even better for this winter.
When you think back, I mean, truly, it was, I hate to use a cliche, but the perfect storm is what it sounds like. Is that, when you look back on it, is it sort of disbelief that all of these factors came together, the ice, the deep temperature, the wind, just in the places where was going to impact you the most?
When a complex system like an airline network falls apart, falls down, it really often is a number of things together. Sometimes in the safety world they call it the Swiss cheese model, where the holes in the Swiss cheese line up just right so something gets through. So the combination of the weather and our preparedness put it so that we were not able to operate like we should have. And so it was a weather situation we had not seen before at Denver, but the lesson to us is you must prepare for situations which you've not seen before. Weather is getting more extreme, so you have to plan for it to be different than you've ever seen before.
And you feel like you've planned and prepared?
We certainly have added a margin of error all throughout our system so that we can tolerate kind of shocks to the system with weather that we did not anticipate. We saw it this summer. In California, there was a hurricane in California. I don't think there's been one since aviation was invented, yet we were able to weather that without a big disruption.
What do you think you'll feel if we have another winter storm coming? I mean, it does happen. It happens where we hear the news and it's, oh no, 5 million Americans are under a winter storm warning right now. Will you feel any nerves coming into something like that?
I think Southwest Airlines, and me in particular, will be very focused on that first winter storm.
Personally, like when you think back on it, you said you did the after-action report, and I know that we've seen Southwest has apologized and said this shouldn't have happened. How do you feel about things when you think back on what happened in December?
It was obviously a very big disservice to both our people and our customers, and so we build our brand on treating both our customers and our people well. So that was a shortcoming for myself and for the company, and so we certainly feel lots of regret and remorse about that. And so the best thing you can do is face forward and make sure it doesn't happen again, and that's why we've been so diligent about this all year.
A couple other things. Talk about, can you give any specific number about the money that's been invested in Denver specifically, or system-wide, in sort of responding to this and preparing for the future?
The investment's been tens of millions of dollars to get us the equipment, staffing, and infrastructure we needed. But really, what it's really taken us a lot of time, a lot of management time to figure out both what exactly happened, what are the series of events that happened, and therefore what was needed. And so that was really the big lift for us this year.
When you went through the after action, what surprised you the most? I mean, I'm sure when you're in the middle of it, you have some ideas. You can figure out what's going on, but that's in December. When you went through the after action and you got, the reports on what everybody said went wrong, was there anything that you read in there and you said, wow, I can't believe this was, the straw that broke the camel's back?
It was really the combination of things. It's the old "for the want of a nail, the war was lost," that you start with the de-icing, which you talked about, and run it all the way through to our decision making and our technology, and all those things linked together, falling over, was really the eye-opening thing to me, that it wasn't just one thing. That was a big surprise, that it was many things together.
Temperature-wise, was there a specific temperature where if it just would have been 5 degrees warmer, or if it would have been 20 degrees instead of 12 degrees, was there a temperature that you guys felt like you were comfortable at operating then, and are you comfortable operating at a lower temperature now?
Well, there's certainly elements we've done, like different diesel fuel testing and such, to make sure the diesel doesn't congel. We've got heaters, high output heaters, so that in case the tugs freeze or the gates freeze, we have those. But really it was a combination of the snow was wetter and heavier than anticipated. The wind was stronger coming from the north, and our gates face the north, and the temperature dropping so fast. So it was that combination. And if just one of those had been higher, then maybe it would have been okay, but the three together was a situation we had not seen before and really overwhelmed our equipment.
You just mentioned the gates facing north. I think before you came in, Chris mentioned that where you guys are in Denver is it puts you at a different, you're exposed to different elements maybe than some of the others. Talk about the I guess, logistics that you face there that may be different from other airlines.
Yeah, it's just a bit of a bad luck. So I wouldn't want to blame our placement, but yet it's being on the north side of the airport, you're getting the north wind full face and blocking others, and then with a strong north wind, and you're trying to spray the aircraft with de-ice fluid, and you're spraying into the wind because your gates, your de-ice pads face east-west. All that stuff together is an extra bad luck on top of the insufficient infrastructure and equipment. So really many things coming together to make this system fall over.
And the last thing I want to follow up, you mentioned that you've already had to de-ice this year. Have you de-iced in Denver, Chicago? Where do you know where you guys have done it?
There's some frosting all around the system. It's not necessarily snowfall per se, but the temperature gets low, and you have the fuel wing mixture makes it such ice forms, and you have to de-ice. It actually allows us to sign off our people. We train them, but they're not fully certified until they actually have a live event. So this early frosting has helped us really get people signed off on de-icing.
And everything went well?
Oh yes, everything went well. We're very pleased.
Talk about how important Denver is to you, because that is a lot of us here in Dallas would assume, oh, Dallas is your headquarters. But I think we don't realize the importance of Denver to your overall system.
Yeah, so well, we're headquartered here in Dallas, and our heart's here. Our largest operation is actually in Denver. The airport has significant infrastructure there. It's a very big air travel market. There's just one airport, unlike the Metroplex, where there's multiple airports. And so that means we end up having a large operation there. And it's sort of like the part of our network that holds up the West. So if any of our kind of medium and small cities in the West have a problem, they just send it to Denver, and Denver can handle it. And so when Denver can't handle problems, it really puts the western part of our network under stress. So bolstering Denver will both address what we experienced last winter, as well as just make our network that much more robust.